right, get your steps in. Okay, so if you haven't figured out by now, there is a college reunion going on right now, 25 years exact for me at this place, Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter, Minnesota. So I've missed breakfast this morning. Most of the activities are happening on campus. I elected to get a room in the Twin Cities, actually near the Mall of America. So I've had to drive back and forth to the festivities. At any rate, being that I've missed breakfast, I'm hungry. And I found this spot, which was probably here 25 years ago, and I never went. And I'll get into that a little bit later as to why I probably never went. But anyway, this is the Nicollet Cafe. And let's go in. If you need a job, they're hiring.
Hi.
Hey there. Just me. If it's okay, since I'm going to be talking into my phone, is it okay, like, to have a... Yeah, that'd be fine, thanks. I mean, I already look crazy, but the fewer people that see me looking crazy, the better. Okay, so the Nicollet Cafe. They have all-day breakfast, which is good. I'm trying to watch my sugar intake, but I kind of want some pancakes. And this is a diner. Well, let's see what else is there. Actually, do you have like any seltzer water?
I just have plain soda water. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I'll take that. Thanks. So I'm the only person in here right now. If it weren't St. Peter, Minnesota, I'd be a little concerned. I don't know, just my own food insecurities, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Choices. How about these prices? Alright, I think that I want a veggie skillet and I want some pancakes. How about, since I am trying to watch my intake, how about we just do one pecan or pecan, depending on where you're from, pancake. Oh, screw it, I'm hungry. We'll do 2. All right. Got my seltzer water. And just waiting for her to come back. So we're gonna do the veggie scramble. In any style. Well, it's a scramble, usually scrambled. Like the skillet's normally scrambled. And Again, we'll do the pecan pancakes. I'm gonna put us on hold for a moment until she comes back. Okay, so while I wait for my food, again, I'm in St. Peter, Minnesota, which is where I went to undergrad at Gustavus Adolphus College, which was quite an experience. Probably not going to get into all of that. But let me start you out with 5 fun facts. So I have them about St. Peter as well as Minnesota in general. Minnesota is known as the land of 10,000 lakes, if you've never heard that before. And it actually has 11,842 lakes. So if you like fishing, if you like outdoorsy type activities, Minnesota is a great state for you to consider. Minnesota was the newest state in the Union at the time of the Civil War. And it was also the first state to offer up its troops to go to combat in the Civil War. So very interesting about Minnesota, if you didn't know that. Again, it was the first state it was the newest state at the time of the Civil War, and it was the first one to offer up troops. Minnesota is the 4th coldest state in the country. Anyone can take any guesses as to what are the top 3? Because Minnesota, I don't know, having spent some winters up here, I think it could give Alaska, North Dakota, and Maine a run for their money. As I have a fly that wants to join me for lunch here. And here's something for you as far as like American culture. For those of you that don't already know, St. Olaf, made famous by Rose on the Golden Girls, is actually not a city. St. Olaf, however, is a college in Minnesota, and it's actually a rival of my school, Gustavus Adolphus College. So St. Olaf is not a city, regardless of how big of a Golden Girls fans you were, or if you just still want to believe it, that's on you. But St. Olaf is not a city in Minnesota. It is a college, however. And speaking of St. Peter, which was incorporated in 1873, St. Peter was supposed to be the state capital of Minnesota until some guy named Joe Roletti stole that bill that would have had St. Peter be the capital and basically hid it until after the Minnesota legislature had decided on St. Paul being the capital of Minnesota. So those are 5 fun facts. Of course, Minnesota also has the Mall of America, pretty much the largest indoor mall in the country. Very big on sports up here, especially being from Chicago. A lot of rivals. You got the Minnesota Vikings, of course the Minnesota Twins. I'm a huge White Sox fan, and of course Bears fan. Timberwolves have been around a while, but I don't know if anybody even really recognizes them in the NBA. I don't know, they still have a lot to achieve, even though they've been around for a while. And as far as hockey teams, Minnesota has lost and gained hockey franchises over the years. Yeah, so at one point, of course, they had the North Stars, and now they have the Wild, the Minnesota Wild. So today I decided, since it's my 25-year anniversary here, that I'm going to talk about student loan forgiveness, because many alum that I've spoken to, not just at Gustavus, but all over. People that I know, they owe a lot of money on loans. And it's kind of problematic that after 25 years and more, some people still haven't been able to pay off their student loans for one reason or another. I guess I can just talk a little bit about my situation coming from Chicago. How I ended up in St. Peter, Minnesota was kind of a complete fluke, or if you believe in the universe, it was the universe speaking. So basically, when I went to church in Chicago, there was a nice woman, a very nice woman, sweet woman, who told my mom about a program in Chicago that the Ada S. McKinley Foundation, which basically did stuff for inner city kids, all kinds of resources. Well, one of the resources they had was, and my food's coming. Thank you so much. All right.
Anything else you need?
For now, this is good. Thank you.
Syrup is there in the tall bottle.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna let you have a look at this food. Hold on a second. So this is the veggie skillet with some wheat toast and the pecan pancakes. And I am having way too many carbs, but I'm hungry. And if you're hungry, carbs are actually some of the best things that you can have for the moment anyway. So I'm getting situated here. Just a second. And since I last left you, there is some very unhealthy syrup and butter on my pancakes, but again, I don't care. Let's see. Got some pepper on my scrambled eggs. I need to watch my cholesterol, but I've been good on that front, so I don't think the cheese and the eggs will hurt today. And I'm going to be right back. So, before I get back into student loan and forgiveness, let's try these. I've always loved pancakes. Always. Can you really mess up pancakes though? So, yeah, these are some good pecan pancakes. But, stupid fly. So it's telling me about how I ended up in St. Peter, Minnesota. So spring break of my junior year of high school, I went on a college tour.
How's everything tasting?
I'm digging these.
Okay.
So yeah, I went on a college tour over spring break my junior year. I went to the University of Kansas. I visited a few schools in Iowa. And then we went up to Minnesota. And I actually visited St. Olaf. But the last school that I visited was Gustavus Adolphus. And as I got a chance to tour the campus again today, I realized what it was initially that made me decide on this school. It just seemed like there's so much thought behind everything at the school. No willy-nilly, random, whatever. It just seems like everything is well thought out. And I experienced the Minnesota Nice on my tour. Very friendly campus. The students that were on campus at the time, specifically the black students, were very accommodating. That's actually kind of part of the, I don't know if it still is, but back then anyway, if you were black coming to Gustavus, they really tried to have you share the community with, of course, with the other students, but the black students as well. And there are pluses and minuses of that. I even wrote a novel that I tried publishing, that's about 20 or so years ago, which makes me want to dust it off and try it again, talking about like the black experience at a very small school in Minnesota, where when I entered a class of about, I think, 600 or so, 8 people were black. So, coming from the south side of Chicago, that was a bit of a challenge, but I thought it was a great school. I had people at my school in Chicago, black students, like, why are you going to Minnesota for school? There ain't no black people up there, why are you going there? And I'd be lying if I said that while in school and after school, I didn't think about that as well. But again, depending upon what you believe in, I think nothing more than fate brought me to St. Peter, Minnesota, because it was so far off the radar. So I was the first, on my mom's side anyway, the first of my grandma's grandchildren to not only go to college but to graduate. And I didn't think much of it. It was just something that I expected. I just expected to go to college and to graduate. But my family, like many families that end up taking out student loans, was far from wealthy. And even when I got on campus, even though I had a work-study job that paid the minimum wage, oh my God, was it like $4.75 back then, or the minimum wage? I basically worked in the admissions office at Gustavus giving tours. So basically selling the school to potential students. And let me get this skillet in here. On campus, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a car. So basically, you're kind of stuck here unless you made some friends who had cars. So in St. Peter itself, there isn't a whole lot to do, especially considering coming from Chicago. So, socially, compared to like a lot of larger schools, you wouldn't get the same experience as, say, my friends that went to the University of Illinois. Or a historically black college. But in all honesty, initially anyway, those weren't the biggest interest to me. My bigger, what concerned me more was the ratio of students to teachers. I didn't necessarily want to be taught by teaching assistants, which in grad school I became one. So I would never question the education that I got at Gustavus. It was top notch. I ended up studying abroad. Going to Ghana, West Africa, Perth, Western Australia, and Jönköping, Sweden. Skill is good, by the way. So I never came to this cafe because I pretty much, again, I didn't have any extra money. Every bit of money that I made from giving the campus tours, you had to buy clothes, you had to pay for books, I just didn't really have any extra spending money. And I'm sorry, but this food's really good. You know, I think back to that first year of college. And that's also, that first year of college is also where a lot of kids get access to credit cards. Because if you don't have enough cash, what do people do? And they do that today. They put on a credit card. It was part of a system for students that don't have much financial wherewithal. And that includes from their parents and relatives. So you're kind of thrown into this world of debt and credit scores and debt collectors. And you're what, 17, 18, 19? And you're signing paperwork, and perhaps with a parent as a co-signer who doesn't know much about money either, but wants the best for you. You're signing away your lives for a chance at a better day, a better opportunity. So on the one hand, I get why some progressives are really pushing $50,000 student loan forgiveness or $10,000 student loan forgiveness. But it's still flawed. And it's flawed for several reasons. The first one, in my case anyway, in 2019, I consolidated my student loans to a private loan. To get a potentially lower rate. Well, guess what? When the pandemic happened, and students got to take a pause on paying their student loans, their federal student loans, and that pause is still in effect. Those of us with private loans that used to be government loans, but somehow these companies work with the government's loans, we got no relief. We haven't even been talked about in the relief conversations. Only federal loans. Again, even though the private company bought it from the government, or at least the banks working with the government. So, even if you were able to suspend your payments with the private loans, the interest still accrued. The interest stopped accruing for federal loans. Those still under the government, which again is crap because they used to be government loans. Also, little bits and pieces are starting to be leaked out about Biden's student loan forgiveness. And just like stimulus money, it was based off of your prior year income. It did not take into consideration what had changed in your life just a year since. But all those decisions, getting extra money during the pandemic, were based upon your last year's income. I don't consider myself wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. I work a lot of hours. So I didn't qualify for the stimulus. And if things go ahead as are being leaked out, I won't qualify for $10,000 of student loan forgiveness either, because number one, I have private loans as opposed to government loans, and then I would not reach I would have surpassed the income limitations of $150,000 for an individual and $300,000 for a couple. I live in California, in Los Angeles County. My $150,000 plus does not go as far as someone in Des Moines, Iowa. And it's like, whoever's making these decisions, they're just blanket decisions, and things just aren't being taken into full consideration, and it really sucks. So it says, screw all of you that have student loans for the youth. You work your behind off. Screw you, but we're going to reward you have to excuse me because this is just so frustrating. There is no kind of means test. There's no kind of paperwork that you need to submit. Only thing that's being talked about is whatever was on your taxes. for the last year. And here's the thing too. I'm paying for it and you're paying for it too. Whether or not you even went to college, whether or not you paid all your loans off, you're paying for this as well. Only 13% of the American population even has student loan debt. But if you believe these progressive politicians, they make it seem as though, this is a problem for the majority of Americans. Interestingly enough, most people will probably agree that the problem isn't the student loans themselves, but it's the interest. It's the interest on the student loans. So you've heard stories of people who have been paying on their student loans for 15, 20 years, and some of them actually owe more than what they started out with. That's the interest. What's the point in forgiving $10,000 to $50,000 of student loans if the whole matter of interest on those loans is not being brought up? And it's the interest, the compounding interest, that's really hurting most Americans with student loan debt. Let's see. I was looking over any notes that I pretty much had on the student loans. Basically, it's about 45 million students owe a total of $1.7 billion. $1.7 trillion in student loans. So that's about 45 million people. The U.S. has over 300 million people. So 45 million people have about $1.7 trillion in student loans. And some people have already been getting relief if they went to some of these for-profit schools that closed down for whatever reason. Already about $5.8 billion has loosened the student loan chains on 560,000 borrowers. So in a nutshell, I get both sides, but student loan forgiveness has to be better thought out than it actually is at this point, because in this current iteration, it's not fair. It's not fair to people who, again, work 2 and 3 jobs, or who work excessive hours in a week and a month to pay down their student loans, and rewards those who didn't go out and get a 2nd or 3rd job. It's like, how about you tie student loan forgiveness to service? How can you service your country to get and make it eligible for everybody? Okay, you do this for the U.S. government. This is what's needed. This is what's needed. You do this, part of your loans fall off. But again, the elephant in the room, as far as the student loan discussion goes, is the interest. And it just baffles me. I can read 1,001 articles, and no politician seems to be touching on the issue of interest, the interest rates. We have to stop making education a for-profit business. Either it's something that society needs or it doesn't, and it shouldn't just be for the people that can actually afford it. I wasn't one of those people, and many of the people that I know and love weren't either. But now we're saddled with thousands, and in some instances, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt because of a system that allows for 17 through 23-year-olds to sign these financial commitments when they can't even rent a car. If this is an issue for you, make sure that your legislatures, wherever you are, know. And hopefully there can be some equity in this discussion on student loans, because right now there really isn't. And not to mention what it's going to also do to already high inflation. So that's more money freed up for people to buy stuff that they don't really need, but they want. So, all right, that's my rant for today. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. If you're not a subscriber to Food for Thought with Robert already, please do so. Tell your friends, and may your college reunion be enjoyable, and you don't have to think about the price you paid for your ticket, as James Baldwin put it. The price of the ticket is right now with student loans. That price is astronomical. But with the right types of reform, not just blanket forgiveness, with the right type of reform, millions of people who already owe loans, plus millions more yet to come, will benefit from the thoughtfulness of people that actually want to solve this problem, and that are not beholden to a certain party, beholden to banks and lobbyists, but beholden to the betterment of America for Americans. All right, y'all. Good food, enough carbs. I'm gonna have my sparkling water, and I'll talk to you soon.